Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. I love that our OP's dad just casually sat outside in his bathrobe in a lawn chair. It's like he was on holiday, waiting for the show. We'll tell you the whole story right after a short pause. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Garbage Day. Garbage pickup was always pretty early Thursday morning, and with my brothers, 4 younger, and I, ranging from high school to middle school, we were never awake to take the cans out. Thus, we'd always take them out Wednesday night after dinner. I remember there were 2 weeks where my dad would wake us up, more pissed off than the Native American in The Revenant. Some high school kids would come around in the middle of the night and smash the garbage cans with their car. Trash was all over the front lawn, and we'd be up at 4 a.m. cleaning this crap up. After the 3rd week in a row, Dad decided enough was enough and he'd take matters into his own hands. I obviously didn't know at the time, but he told me what he'd done after the fact. After my brothers and I took out the cans Wednesday night, he went back out, took the last bag off the top, placed 3 cinder blocks in the can, then put the remaining trash on top. Sure enough, my whole family wakes up around 2 a.m. to a loud crashing sound. We all ran downstairs to see what it was, only to find my dad, clad in his finest bathrobe, in the front room with the chair facing the street. Tells us all not to worry about it, and everything was all right. Turns out the kids were teenagers from a neighboring high school who thought it would be hilarious to trash our lawn because we had one of those XX high school football signs in our front yard. From what I saw, the hood of the car was busted up to hell, the windshield was shattered, and the driver's side mirror was completely broken off. The cops obviously came, and my dad, happier than Tony Soprano in an Italian deli, talked to them for maybe 5 minutes, still in his bathrobe and slippers. He never told me what they talked about, but I can safely assume it was all good, because nothing ever happened to him. And our second story. Playing Slipknot at 12 o'clock? Good luck re-entering your house. I live in a townhouse, 2 families in one building, separated by a wall, neighborhood. My neighbors, a couple in their early 20s, are both huge A-hats. The father of the male is big in the pharmaceutical industry, so he could afford buying his idiot of a son a house. From here on, I'll call the guy Jerk and the girl Psycho Girl. Couple of weeks after I moved in, I'm still single, so did Jerk and Psycho Girl. Up to that point, everything was fine. But when they arrived, so did a lot of problems, and they, both the problems and the jerks, let loose quickly. Being in their early 20s, it's normal for someone to want to party, but they didn't give a flying F about what anyone else thought. Here's a timeline of how, 2 weeks ago, I got back at them. Hadn't had a party since. 11 p.m., eating pizza and watching TV. Look out the window and see 10 to 15 parked cars, 2 of which belong to Psycho Girl and Jerk. By now I know I'm in for a rough night. 11:30 p.m., loud music starts playing, a lot of Slipknot. I'm a fan of the band too, but I'm a fan of sleeping even more. 12 a.m., music suddenly stops. Lots of laughing and shouting, probably heavy drinking while playing party games. Goes on for an hour. 1 o'clock, people start leaving. 1:30, only 4 cars left. Psycho Girl and Jerk leave the house in short clothing. It was minus 15 degrees Celsius. Drive somewhere, don't know exactly, but probably to the 24/7 shop nearest to get snacks or something. This is my chance. I was planning this for about a month now. I found out that all the halves in the townhouses in our neighborhood are symmetrical, even every door handle. When you pull on one side of my main door handle, the other side pulls down as well. The windows next to our door are pretty interesting. They only have a button on one side that unlocks the window, but if you close the window, it locks automatically. Same crap for them. The window is open. Perfect. I grab a 2x4 and climb through, and everyone, literally everyone, is sleeping on the couch. I place the 2x4, that I cut to fit my door, under the handle to jam it. My work is done. I climb out the window, close it, and head back home as fast as possible. 2 a.m. when I see their car, whip out my phone, go and start taking a video from my phone. They park their car and visibly drunk climb up their stairs. They unlock the door with a card key, but it stunned is jammed. For obvious reasons, Jerk in short shorts and a t-shirt starts yelling for someone to open the door while drunk and freezing to death. What a combo. But the guests are all sleeping. Psycho girl starts randomly yelling swears for everyone to hear. Her yelling was honestly louder than the music. The footage was embarrassing and hilarious. 2:30, someone finally opens, but I have it all recorded. I also had the pleasure to meet Jerk's dad, a very intelligent and interesting person, unlike his son, and found out that he holds his son to very high standards and he punishes his son financially for mistakes. That same morning, I told Jerk about the recording and threatened to show it to his father if he ever plays loud music after 11 o'clock. He agreed. Past 2 weeks were a pleasure. And our next story. Neighbor poisons dog, gets what's coming to him. This is not my story, but of a good friend of mine, let's call him Mitch, whom I've known for many, many years now. This happened 15 years ago when Mitch and I were both 16 years old. Mitch has 2 younger brothers, at the time 14 and 15 years old. Mitch and his brothers had the most beautiful golden lab. Always friendly, a bit lazy as labs can be, loved everybody, truly a great dog. The neighbor, though, hated the dog. Something about its fur getting in his lawn when it shed. I live in a warm Mediterranean country, so dogs tend to shed a lot here. Something about it barking during siesta. In any case, the neighbor was being a B-word about it. Now, Mitch's parents are the quiet type. Trying to accommodate, they even put a fence inside their own yard to keep the dog in the other side of the yard, facing the property of the other neighbor that had no issues with their dog. Kept the dog inside during siestas, and Mitch and his brothers would brush the undercoat regularly during the summer months to limit any shedding. To make a long story short, one day they came back home after a day trip and they find the dog convulsing and foaming in their yard, dying soon after. They immediately knew what happened, as the telltale signs of a poisoned dog were all too familiar to the father, as he'd witnessed it time and time again in his youth, when the local police would poison stray dogs during the 50s and 60s to contain an outbreak of rabies. Mitch and his brothers were inconsolable. Their parents confronted the neighbor who, without admitting guilt, said something along the lines, "The dog had it coming." The parents, for reasons unknown, probably to avoid any prolonged legal battle or to just put an end to the story, decided not to press charges, which forced Mitch and his brothers to take the appropriate action they believed the neighbor deserved. I'm not saying that I condone what they did, but let's say that as a dog lover, it still brings a smile to my face 15 years later. They waited patiently for 3 days after the event when the neighbor and his wife, their children had moved out a few years prior, went out for the night. Small parentheses, all 3 were and still are some of the kindest and most thoughtful boys and men that I know. But I regress. They waited for the neighbors to go out for the night, and that's when they broke into the house and started to systematically destroy everything the neighbors owned. Electronics, furniture, drapes, carpets, bed linen, everything. They spent a good hour in the neighbor's house wreaking havoc. He later told me that it was very meticulous and systematic. They all 3 were crying and just moving on to the next object to break or shear or tear. They then sat outside the porch and waited. Sometime later, the neighbor comes back home and they just stare at him and smile, waving to him as he enters his house with his wife. He never pressed charges either. Mitch's parents now have 3 golden labs in the yard and have always had dogs since then. As far as I know, they never really had issues with the neighbor either. And our last story. Thief! Thief! He's trying to steal a scooter for disabled people. My fiancé suffers from a somewhat rare neurological condition called paresthesia neurologica, which is connected to traumatic nerve damage caused by not 1 but 2 car accidents. One aspect of paresthesia neurologica is that she has mobility issues and finds it difficult and extremely painful to walk more than short distances. However, like many people with a disability, her disability is not easily seen or noticed unless she's attempting to walk. As a result, we occasionally run into what I call the disability police. The most common occurrence is when I'm driving the car with her in the front passenger seat and I park the car in a marked disabled parking spot with the disabled parking tag hanging from the car's rearview mirror. And I get out of the car. They see me easily walking around the car to open the door for her and start screaming, "You're not disabled! You can't park in that disabled person parking spot!" Particularly when we go grocery shopping, we go to supermarkets that have powered scooters so she can ride and drive around the store while shopping. On a recent visit to our local supermarket, I did what I usually do. I parked the car, went into the store, found a scooter with a fully charged battery, got on it, and drove it out to our car so that she wouldn't have to walk from the parking lot into the store and get the card herself. Normally, this is not an issue, but this time some self-appointed disability police person saw me walk into the store and start driving the scooter out to the parking lot and starts chasing after me, screaming, "You're not disabled! I saw you walk into the store without any problem!" And then screams, "Thief! Thief!" and that she was going to call the police. Knowing how things are in our little Cape Cod, Massachusetts town, I just decided to park the scooter next to our car and told my fiancé to stay in the car. A police car pulled up and Miss Disability Policewoman starts telling the officer that I was not disabled and had taken one of the scooters for disabled people and was attempting to steal it. The officer came over to our car and then said, "Hi, OP," looks into the car and says, "Hi, my fiancé's name." By the way, my fiancé's name. Thanks for the cookies you baked and brought over to the police station last week. We really love them. Miss Disability Policewoman's mouth dropped open, and when the police officer helped, my fiancé's name, out of the car and onto the scooter, it looked like she wanted to crawl into a hole somewhere and hide. The police officer then turned to her and in a voice a parent might use on a misbehaving bratty child said, "Miss, I suggest you go somewhere else, mind your own business, and stop harassing my friends." She scurried off, got in her car, and left. Fiancé loves to bake and cook and often bakes cookies and brownies and drops them off at the local police station for the police and at the local firehouse for the firemen. She doesn't consider it a bribe, but considers it just being a good neighbor and realizes that our local police and firemen don't get paid a big salary or get properly appreciated. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.